anything be done this season to make any changes?
I mean, I hope we can do something this season. I mean, for sure, there's no excuse to not have something for next season. But I mean, I think you don't want to do something just to do it. Like, we need to actually validate that it's going to be better and not worse. So, I mean, I don't think we need to just do something in the sake of doing something. Like, we need to actually go through, make sure it's actually going to be better. And I think those things do take time. But yeah, I mean, if we can do something this year that's for sure better, then yeah, we need to do it. I mean, we need to do it as quick as possible. We don't need to see guys continuing to get hurt. But I think for sure there's absolutely no excuse why we can't have something for next season. Like, when we go to the Daytona 500, we should 100% be in a safer car. But yeah, I mean, if we can do something quicker than that, then absolutely we need to do it. But we need to do something that's for sure going to be better, not just do something quick just to do it.
Greg Ives was in here a few minutes ago, and he was saying, that the way Alex, leaning forward, and they showed it on race up too. His head was a little bit off the headrest, and if you're in a crash, can you think about, I need to get my head back in time?
Nah, I mean, I think it's easy to say that, but I mean, if I act like I was going to punch you right, like, you're going to flinch, and like, that's just your natural instinct. Is when you know you're about to hit something, you go the opposite way. So I mean, I think in your mind you can say, like you need to put your head all the way back, but to actually think that everybody's going to do that, I think is nearly impossible. So, even with that being said, if you put your head all the way back, your neck's not going to snap back as quick, but your brain's still in fluid, like, it's still going to move around, it's still going to get hit. So, I don't know. I think it needs to be better from top to bottom, but I mean, if you can make yourself put your head there, like, I know in the past I've blown tires and know you're going to hit on the right side and you can kind of get your head over there, but it's so hard to make yourself do that and kind of go against your natural reaction to kind of get away from it.
Have the past 2 months changed your feelings about the safety of the car, or anything validated there?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of been the same. I think, the last 2 months we've seen a lot more guys get hurt, but I think, we all knew that there was going to be growing pains with this car. I crashed it at a test in November and hurt way worse than what I had the old car do, and it was both rear impacts. So, I think this car is just stiffer for sure. I think in the everyday crash it might be a little bit worse, but I truly do believe if we had another Ryan Newman type crash, I think this car would 100% probably save your life. But I think it's the 99% of crashes we have the other time where it just hurts a lot more. And I think that we can get it better. Like, we have to get it better, obviously, but I think for sure in those huge crashes, this car probably is better because it is stronger around where we sit. It's just all the extremities of it that are probably a little bit tougher.
Chase, why been crashing cars all year, so why so much noise the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes time. I think, you're gonna, like, if you crash 3 or 4 times, like the 3rd or 4th time, like, your brain's gonna start hurting more and more, your headache. I think some guys probably have been racing this year with headaches and maybe concussions, and you don't want to sit out as a driver, right? Like, you just push through it, and you see that in the NFL. That was a huge talking point this weekend with Tua. So I think it's been a concern, I think, for all of us, but now it's more real. We've got 3 or 4 guys that are out or been hurt. So I think, we haven't had that before. So it's definitely more concerning for all of us. I mean, none of us want to be hurt. Like, the old car, not that it was bulletproof, but it felt bulletproof in a sense, where this car doesn't. I mean, when you put the helmet on, you forget about it, right? But when you get out of the car and you hear, hey, this guy's going to sit out next week, it makes it a little more real. So, it's definitely concerning. I'm confident that we can make it better. There's no reason why NASCAR doesn't have the tools to make it better. And I think they're going to make it better. It's just a matter of when that'll happen.
Well, when you crashed, like last November, right? You told the NASCAR. Did they make the NASCAR say, hey, where do you hurt, and what were those? Was there much conversation, and what was the response if there was?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't truthfully talk to. I mean, it was at a test, and I literally backed the car in at 20 mile an hour. I mean, it didn't even bend anything. So, not a lot of people even came over there. So it's hard for me to say yes or no. Like, they should have done more, shouldn't have done more. I know every Monday after you wreck, they call you, ask if you have a headache, things like that. But outside of that, that's the only dialogue I have after a crash. And I've been fortunate. I haven't really crashed this car this year. I think I've only been in 2 wrecks, so I don't have a ton of experience crashing it. But I know the wrecks I have had, I felt relatively okay after. But I haven't had really any rear impact wrecks other than that one test wreck. And like I said, it was at 20-something mile an hour. So I don't have as much experience, I guess, in the rear impact stuff and as some of the other guys have.
Has the Drivers Advisory Council flexed their muscle as much as maybe they could have this year on any manner of topics? The Driver Advisory Council, you guys and Jeff Burton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're trying, right? Like, it's nice to have somebody kind of be that middleman, kind of that third party, I guess, where it's not us going. But I think now you've seen the drivers kind of speak up more, and it's concerning for all of us, right? Like, we have families, like, I have a son that's going to turn 1 tomorrow. Like, I want to be around, I want to be healthy for that. So, I think all of us want it to be better, and I think that's the thing is we've just never been in this position where we've had this many guys out, and I think it could just be a freak thing, right? Like, we could have this happen with the old car, but I think all of us are, trying to voice our opinion now just because we know that we can get it fixed. Like, there's every opportunity to get it fixed, and we want to get it fixed, and I think NASCAR wants to get it fixed too. So I think we're going to get it fixed. It's just a matter of when. But I definitely think having Jeff and having that council where we can all come together and just sit down every so often, and talk about what we're all fighting and things like that, I think it's definitely been a help.
Chase, you mentioned how much stronger this car is in terms of intrusion accidents and how much better protected the driver is. Can you explain exactly how what resulted in the front and the back ends also becoming stiffer and the issues that we're seeing now with safety coming from there as opposed to where you're sitting in the cockpit?
I don't really know all the ins and outs, right? Like, to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you how the car even goes together. I know that it's bolted on front and rear clip, and you have a center section. And I think the thing is, the old car was all one piece. So when it gave, it all gave. Where now you have a center section that has these huge bolts that's mounted to these really short steel pieces that just doesn't give. So it's really, really stiff and rigid. And the teams obviously don't want to be hurting these rear clips that are so expensive. So we've got this bumper structure that's really, really hard and stiff that doesn't really bend unless you hit extremely hard. So, the other tough thing is I think the fuel cell is in between the rear clip and the bumper structure. So if you have it where it gives too much, well, then you're into the fuel cell and we're catching cars on fire, and we don't need to do that either. So that's where I think it's a really hard balance right now, just trying to figure out how do we fix it. We got to make it give, but if we make it give too much, well, then we're catching on fire, and we don't want that either. So just a matter of figuring out what the next solution is, and I'm confident we can get it better. I know NASCAR can get it better. It's just a matter of what those pieces are. I would love to see the teams get a little more involved or have the availability to get more involved, because I do think the teams, just having more people work on this, the better, I think. And the teams have a lot of really smart people as well, and we could dedicate 2-3 guys from each big team, and I think the more people working on this solution, the quicker it's going to get resolved.
With the big stiff rear bumper, when you guys are drafting on Sunday and you get that shot from behind, is that something you feel now more than ever before?
When you're going relatively the same speed, not as much. But yeah, honestly, the hardest hit I think I've had all year long was right before I crashed here earlier in the year. Blaney checked up in front of me and I hit him, and it hurt. And I was talking to Blaney just yesterday about it. He said that's probably the hardest hit he's taken. Just, we didn't crash, it was just we hit each other. We were going probably 30 mile an hour different speed, and I smoked him. It didn't wreck either of us, we kept going. But yeah, it's definitely violent whenever you're 20-30 mile an hour different. But if we're all running relatively the same speed and bump draft, and then it doesn't really affect you. But for sure, if there's a speed difference, if on a road course, for example, if a guy checks up in front of you and you hit him, it hurts for sure, just because nothing gives. It's like concrete on concrete.
In this spring race, we saw it be a relatively tame race. I think the entire third stage ran green with the safety concerns. Can we see that repeat again tomorrow?
I don't think so. I feel like when we all put the helmet on, we all forget about it, right? Like, I think we're still going to be throwing, desperate blocks at the end of the race. We're going to be making moves that we probably shouldn't be making. As a race car driver, I feel like you kind of forget about all those things. So, yeah, I think it'll be the same race. It might be tame at the beginning because I think guys are going to be trying to get to the end, but once it gets to the end and we see the carrot dangling out in front of us, it'll be the same thing as always.
What's your mindset going into an event, though? You've had 2 of your competitors get hurt. There's still the questions out there. The car hasn't changed, so
it's been the same all year. Kurt's been hurt for 2.5 months, and you still got to go. So, like I said, I feel like I worry every time, whether it was in the old car or whatever. When I come to Talladega and Daytona, I'm scared. So, it's no different this weekend just because the car's different. I could be racing a shopping cart around here and I'd still be scared, right? So, It's just a fast place. You know, things can happen really quickly. If you crash, it hurts here, regardless of what you're in. And yeah, I think for me, you know, it doesn't change the fact once I put the helmet on, you kind of block it out. And as a race car driver, you got to do that.
Have they made any changes? Have they made any changes in your car to adapt? You know, anything for this year?
Not for me. I mean, I run a little bit of a tighter headrest gap than I do at other racetracks just to try to keep my head from bouncing around. But I've been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years when I come to super speedways. So yeah, nothing's really changed for me.
Anything change in terms of after the meeting yesterday, how you felt about things with what Jeff said?
I mean, until we you know, I think see it change. Like it's going to take time. Like I was saying earlier. I mean, we're not gonna. I mean, we could meet today with every executive, right? Like, it's not going to change what happens this afternoon. It takes time to get things implemented. And, you know, I'm confident, like I said earlier, that it's going to get better. It's just going to take time. I mean, these things don't happen overnight. So it's just a matter of, you know, seeing what they can figure out for a solution.
On Connor's podcast, you were kind of lamenting, you know, the guys that ride around the back and just kind of end up top to finish, not doing anything here. And Logano said something similar, you know, last week. That said, what's your strategy playoff-wise? I mean, are you going to be racing hard the whole time?
I mean, it's always hindsight at the end of the race. Like after the trigger flag flies, it's always easy to say, man, that was the strategy we should have done. Why didn't we do that? And I think here, I mean, you can go race, get crashed. You can ride around, get crashed. Like there is no perfect strategy till it's over and you can kind of see what happens. So, yeah, for me, I think we need to try to get stage points part of the first stage. If you can get those and you can get quite a few, then maybe make it a little bit easier the rest of the day. But for us, I mean, a lot of it's going to be determined with how we qualify here. And outside of that, we got to kind of see what the other guys do around us in points. But at the same time, like we're only like 14 points out of second. So like if we can go get a lot of stage points, it puts you in a lot better situation for the Robles. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to. I would love to ride around all day and know that I wasn't going to get in a crash. But I think you're going to have to be up there dicing it up and be in the mix. So that's probably what we're going to have to do.
Speaking of the Roval, there's going to be at least 6 that are going to be making it on points. Does that make you feel more comfortable, or?
Yeah, depending on how we leave here. I mean, if we can leave here in a really good point spot, then yeah, I'd feel a lot better about it. You know, I don't want to be in a must win going into the Roval, but if I can be in a spot to be within, you know, like Bristol, 9 or 10 points, I feel like we can go make those points up. The problem is everybody around us in points is all really, really good road racers as well, so it's going to be hard to make up a lot of points on guys. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we can win tomorrow and be locked in, but the Roval is definitely a place I feel like we can go and score a lot of points.
Well, with the Roval too, we have a lot of people getting pushed off in turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chaos there, a lot like there is here. I mean, you can lose a lot of points quick on the restart and things like that, so yeah, be interesting.
Do you think NASCAR should do something if people get pushed off like that, or?
No, I mean, at the Roval, there's really no opportunity to be pushed off. Where like at an Indianapolis, for example, you could get pushed off into turn 1, but at the Roval, it's so narrow and there's walls everywhere. I mean, I don't think you can do anything to police that.
With the Roval, you tweeted out earlier this week that if you hadn't won the 2018 race in Xfinity, that you probably wouldn't be here, or your career would have ended. Why do you feel that way?
I hadn't done anything that year. I don't think I had a single top 10. You know, Ford was paying for all my racing, and you know, I hadn't performed. I kind of got the hint from them if I didn't start running good, there was no point in them having me. And yeah, I just had kind of I could kind of see the writing on the wall in a sense. And I mean, they never told me for sure I was done the next year, but I know we had not talked a single thing about next year. And I won that race, and that Monday they called me and it's like, hey, what do we got to do for next year? So yeah, I think definitely winning that race was kind of what saved me.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, for sure.